about on As a Man Thinketh, and he started before I was ready. So we'll go ahead and get started. So,
Anyway,
this is,
fast.
he did, right? He did. I'm going to just go ahead and mute us all just for a second while I kind of do this teaching real quick. And as I do the teaching, feel free to take some notes, right? Feel free to take some notes. And one of the things I always say about taking notes is take notes on your thoughts, right? Take notes on the thoughts and the ideas that come to your mind as I talk, because you don't necessarily want to regurgitate back to yourself any of the things that I say, but sometimes the things I say, or even when you're in church or whatever, it springs ideas. And if you don't write those ideas down or thoughts down, they're kind of going forever, right? So you want to go ahead and write those down, write the thoughts that come to your mind as we talk into this. So this is kind of our second week into this. And this week, if you go back through our Facebook page and go back through the online platform, you'll notice that there were 4 lessons that were released this week. We did thought and I think it's Thought and Character Part 1. Then I released that video of my mentors, Roddy Galbraith and Paul Martinelli, doing the 7 levels of character. Man, that's an awesome training. Then we did Thought and Character Part 2, and then Effect of Thought on Circumstance. I love the title of that, right? I think that's just some good stuff. And then we're doing a live video here today that I'll also upload on there. And there was just some things in there that, as we kind of talked, or as we did, that I just thought were too good not to go over again and go deeper into. So I want to pick up on a couple of things that I think are really important in this chapter, kind of on thought and character, on the effect of thought and circumstance. And if you've listened to any of those audios yet, you'll notice that we dig straight into the idea of law, right? This idea of law. And I think this is super important for us to know and understand. And if you, again, listen to the audio on thought and circumstance, I think that was released yesterday. You kind of heard my ramble a little bit on our brothers and sisters in Christ, right? And with these, I started talking about the law of vibration. And I think kind of going back to that, there are laws that govern the way we think, behave, and create. There are laws of gravity. If you don't believe in the law of gravity, go to the roof and step off and you will become a believer, right? I promise you. And there are also laws to the way that we think, create, and behave. But I think many times for our brothers and sisters in Christ, and a lot of times we do too, is like, ooh, that is new age stuff. That is, I don't want to mess with that. That is new age stuff. And guys, this is not new age mumbo jumbo crazy talking point stuff, right? This is things that God created. People will say these are universal laws, but I'm going to say they're God's laws and the universe obeys, right? That God created things. And how many of you know that the enemy, he tries to replicate, right? He tries to steal and reproduce what God has created to make it evil and not for good, right? And I think this is kind of why our brothers and sisters in Christ have kind of stayed away from some of these laws that govern the way we think and behave. But Jesus even talks about that the men of this world, they are more shrewd and wise in their dealings with the world than the men of righteousness. And I think it's time that we learn these things, apply these things, and impact the world, right? So anyway, didn't mean to go on that rabbit trail with you guys, but let's kind of just dig right on in here. So in the book, I think on line 32, he talks about man is growth by law, and it's not a creation by artifice. And this is really worth thinking about. It's all worth thinking about, really, to be honest, but this is worth thinking about as well. One of the highlights, I think, because I think there you think man is the growth by law, and you'd want to pick up on that, and not a creation by artifice. So this didn't go forward like I thought. There we go. We'll do this. All right. But look at these words he uses. Man is a growth by law, not a creation by artifice. And it's interesting, isn't it? Man is a growth by law, not a creation by trickery. You think about a growth by law. Think of a small little tree that needs to become a big tree, right? Or wants to become a big tree, it has to grow from what it already is, right? And what it's going to become, everything that it has been through and is at the point has prepared it for what it's going to do next. It can only grow into what it's going to be from where it is right now. And I love this idea that it's not through a creation by trickery, but by law that it grows, right? By law. So if you think about that, what's the opposite of law? It's luck, isn't it? Or chance. And there's a quote right here I've got by Voltaire, and he said that chance is nonsense, really. It's this idea that things are going to happen and there's no cause for them. Chance, he says, is a word that we've invented to describe the known effects of unknown causes. How about that? So you think about that with regards to our lives. If you think about it, we know the known effects, don't we? We know if we look at our lives and say, I'm not as rich as I want to be, or maybe I'm not as happy as I want to be, or I'm not, whatever, you can fill in the blanks with whatever. We know what the known effects are. Our problem, though, is we don't know what the unknown causes are. And if we don't know what they are, very often we'll say, well, that is just luck or bad luck or fate or chance or whatever, other people use to put in there, right? And he says chance is a word we've invented to describe the known effects of unknown causes. So if you think about how do we get to the bottom of these causes then? Well, that's where it gives us this kind of, he gives us in the book this powerful metaphor in the chapter. He says the metaphor of the garden, right? He has this metaphor of the garden, and it's really, really, really powerful. He says in the visible and material world, in the visible and material world, in the garden, we plant the seeds, and then the seeds, they grow, and then they turn into plants, and the plants blossom, and the blossom that turns into fruits, and fruits produce the results, right? Simple. I mean, I think every one of us on here can understand that in the physical world, right? You're all familiar with this. You probably did in school the experiment where you put the seed in the little styrofoam cup, and you sit the cup on the windowsill, and you check it every day. Has it broke through? Has anything happened yet? Has it started to crack the soil yet, right? You've probably done this, and we all know this, right? We all kind of know this. So, but what about, he says on line 32 or 34, I think, the hidden realm of thought. See, here the garden is the fertile field of our subconscious mind, and the seeds that we're talking about, they're the seeds of thoughts. And those thoughts then take root and they sprout and grow into beliefs, right? And those beliefs drive our behavior. And those actions, then, the fruits of our labor, those actions produce our results. And Jesus talks about by their fruits, we'll know them, right? By their results, you'll know them. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? So in one of the audios, we talked about this law of gender too. I talked about that one. That's another one of those laws of that govern the way we think, create, and behave, right? And think about this in regard to tomato plants, right? Let's say tomato plants. Let's say a tomato plant, the tomato seeds are planted, and then it turns into a plant, right? The plant blossoms, and then you produce the fruit. And those fruit, it falls to the floor, and then what? It's more tomato seeds, right? More tomato seeds are planted in the garden. The tomato plant, it proliferates because it can't do anything else, right? It's going to proliferate. That's what it does. And if you think about it, this old tomato plant that we've got right here, it can't produce carrot seeds. It can't produce black-eyed pea seeds, right? A tomato plant can't produce apple seeds. What does a tomato plant produce? Tomato seeds, right? To produce more tomato plants. That's the way it kind of works, isn't it? And with this law of gender, we know exactly how long it takes for a tomato seed to germinate and to sprout. And this is in that visible and material world. But what about this hidden realm of thought? Well, that's a little bit more confusing, right? It's a bit more perplexing because we still have the seeds of thought, which take root and they sprout into beliefs, and beliefs, like we talked about, drive our behavior, and our behavior produces the results that we're getting in our lives and in the world, right? But just like that tomato plant can't give birth or can't produce carrot seeds, the beliefs of poverty, there's no way that beliefs of poverty are going to produce thoughts of prosperity, right? Makes sense, doesn't it? Or vice versa, beliefs of prosperity, they ain't going to produce thoughts of poverty, right? You can see there very clearly what needs to change. It's the beliefs that need to be changed, maybe even uprooted, right? Maybe dug out or maybe tweaked, but good thoughts are not going to come from bad beliefs or vice versa, just like the seeds of that tomato plant. You know, the other thing that I think is worth noting as well with the law of gender, you know, we know how long it takes for a tomato seed to become a tomato plant, right? I mean, we can Google that if we needed to, but we don't know how long it's going to take for a dream to take root and sprout and grow from the hidden realm of thought. That's kind of why we need to persist, isn't it? Earl Nightingale, he said, this is a bit depressing, I think, to think about it, but I think it's true, and it makes a powerful point. He called this the self-perpetuating, the self-defeating, cycle of the poor, where we just stick with the same thinking over and over and over, and when we want some help, we typically go to the people who are getting the same exact results as we are, right? And we follow people who are getting the same exact results as we are, the results that we don't even want. And he called this the self-perpetuating cycle of the poor. You guys are all into personal growth and development, so I know you've heard of Zig Ziglar, right? And on some of his earlier lessons, he talked about this processionary caterpillars, right? And I don't know if any of you have heard him talk about that, but where these caterpillars, they just go round and round and round and round, and they just follow each other until they die. They just follow each other until they die. They think the person in front of them knows better than them, so what they do is they just keep following them until they die. It's kind of crazy, right? So what do we have to change then? What do we have to change? What do we have to change? Well, this idea, the metaphor of what we are by thought, we've wrought and built our character. Wrought by thought, I think is just so, man, that's good, because that's what needs to change, isn't it? But we can't just magically change and become something different, right? It needs to grow into something different. It needs to be shaped into something different. It needs to be molded into something different. And that analogy that we talked about in the lesson I think I released about the wrought iron, I think is just really powerful, because just like horseshoes, right? If you think about horseshoes, that horseshoe is put into the furnace and it's heated up, and then it's just hammered and hammered and hammered into shape. And in the same way, our character, it needs to be hammered into shape by our thought, mixed with our experience. Thought lived out in this physical world, right? Good stuff. I just think that's good stuff. So what is character then, right? I mean, it's one of those words that you hear, but what is it? And I think it's all the things that we've talked about already. Of course, it's our thoughts. That's a big part of it. But the book Think and Grow Rich and As a Man Thinketh is the book. It's our thoughts, right? But it's also our beliefs and the emotions that stem from each of those beliefs. It's our perception. It's the way we see the world. It's our opinions. It's those dearly held opinions that we have. It's our cherished beliefs. It's our values. It's all those things. All those things make up our character. So when we look at our old buddy, sorry, I meant to pull that forward a little bit sooner, but our thoughts and our beliefs and our emotions that we talked about. But if we look at our old buddy here, this stick man, we've got, the big circle that represents the mind. And then we got the conscious and the subconscious. Yes, we can think in this conscious mind. Yes, it changes the way we feel in the subconscious mind, but the subconscious part of our mind, it's that subconscious part of our mind that stores everything, all of our experiences, all of it is kept in there. And that's how our character is shaped. And that's where we need to go if we really want to change isn't it? And that's what we're going to keep looking at. We're going to, as we dig further into this study, as we keep going into our As a Man Thinketh, we're going to dig a little bit further into character as we continue. And guys, I hope this has added value to you. I know this was a super short, quick little lesson here, but I just think it's definitely powerful. I think it's something that